Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Dean Hallett, President of Hallett Leadership. I'm here to talk to you again about my book, The Missing Piece. Today, we're going to dive into Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about alignment. Why is alignment important? In the words of Jim Collins, building a visionary company requires 1% vision and 99% alignment. Without alignment, it's too hard to move in any one direction. You hear about these large organizations that find it so difficult to be agile and to make responses to what's going on in the marketplace. A lot of that might be because they're large, but the larger they get, the more disconnected people feel within the organization, the less aligned they are. And that's why there is so much friction, so much resistance to movement, because people don't understand how they fit into the big picture. Now, let's talk about the price of not having alignment, the price of people not being engaged in where the organization is trying to go. They've done studies. They have estimated that 85% of the people in the workforce are either unengaged or actively disengaged. The difference is unengaged is like, I don't care. Actively disengaged is, I don't care so much that I might even be trying to sabotage what's going on. The economic cost in the US alone each year is estimated to be about $550 billion. $550 billion economic cost for unengaged and disengaged workforce. In addition, they estimate roughly between an 18 to 25% turnover increase in companies that don't have active engagement. Active engagement is essential. Let's take a look at what we mean by that. So first, let's say you're starting an organization and you're just getting going, and maybe there's only 5 or 6 of you, and it's easy. You talk to each other every day. Everything seems to be working. Everybody knows how they fit into the big picture, and it's very clear what the vision is that you're all trying to accomplish because of all that active communication. But then the organization grows. Let's say it grows to 25, 50, 75 people. Now you don't have that same dialogue, that same discussion activity happening every day, and things change. Typically, when you're first getting into that situation, here's a picture of what that level of alignment looks like. If you look at the big arrow, it can be where the organization's going, and the little white arrows can be the individual agendas, the individual people's agendas of where they're headed, what they're trying to accomplish. Or maybe each of the white arrows represents in a large organization the individual departments that all have their own agendas, their own incentives, their own goals that don't match up with what the overall organization is doing. So that creates this friction, this drag, because you've got forces that are pulling in different directions. Now, as leaders, when we see that happening, our tendency is to say, this isn't working. People are going in too many different directions. And we start moving into something that we call agreement. Agreement, you'll notice, still has the big arrow, but it's got one arrow inside of it going in the same direction. I also call that command and control. That's a CEO who says, do what I say, don't ask any questions, just get the job done. Now, you can get everything lined up really well. This is an experience I had at Disney many, many years ago under a different regime, but it was essentially, don't ask any questions, just go to your cubicle, go to your office, do what you need to do to get the job done. And if your brands are strong enough, you can get by. We had a lot of wins at Disney. The difference was that the people in the trenches didn't feel like they were their wins because they had no input. They were not involved. They were just executing what they were being told to do. So there'd be big celebrations, but that celebration didn't necessarily resonate with the people that were just showing up every day to punch a time card. They weren't really engaged in what the process was that was going on. Remember, with alignment comes engagement. So, how do you fix that? Well, true alignment is when you move into the next step, where you bring people to the table and you form this kind of an arrow. In this diagram, you can see that you've got the same large arrow. You also have a lot of little white arrows like we did in the first diagram, but now they're all pointing in the same direction. It's not one single arrow, it's everybody's or every department's individual agenda now lines up with what the overall vision and mission of the organization is. This doesn't happen accidentally. This is done with intention, and it has to happen on an ongoing basis. I'll give you an example. So we were working on the digital supply chain at Fox. We had an analog world. Theatrical had all of its film reels being produced one way. Then they would send materials over to home entertainment. Home entertainment would put them into a different format, strike DVDs, or in the old days, VHS tapes. TV distribution, the team that would send it to the HBOs of the world, or Sky Television in the UK, they would get certain videotapes, higher end videotapes that they would run their programming off of. But as we moved into a digital world, we had an opportunity to create digital files that everybody could access. And sure, we had different formats, but we came up with an approach as we formed a digital supply chain team that said, let's come up with a system and a process where we will create the master film element one time, and from that master we will be able to take and move each of the elements into the respective businesses by moving a digital file. And there were a lot of issues with building a digital supply chain that were more political than anything else, but a lot of them were based on fixed beliefs that people had based on the analog world. In our last chapter, we talked about fixed beliefs and fixed behaviors. People had fixed beliefs that if they didn't control their own destiny, if they didn't create their own film materials in TV distribution, for example, then everything was going to fall apart. If somebody else was being inserted into the process, how could they possibly do that? And certainly if somebody else was going out and delivering a material to one of their customers, that would be a lost opportunity to sell. So it took a lot of discussion around creating alignment. And when we had individuals who were saying, that's not going to work for us, we have to be able to control that within our division, we said, hold on. Everybody has bought into the vision that we're going to create an element one time. If we're not willing to stick with that, that means we have to build multiple supply chains. That's going to be incredibly inefficient. We're going to have materials that people aren't going to be able to find. This is an opportunity for us to become incredibly efficient and incredibly effective, actually lead the industry in terms of delivering materials to our customers. So we would bring people back on track by doing that. But it didn't happen just once. I would tell people, if you think that you have a discussion and you've got people aligned, go check 2 weeks later and see if those people are still aligned. Their old fixed beliefs are going to start they're going to start injecting their old fixed beliefs into what they think needs to happen in order to get the job done, and they're going to move out of alignment. And if you're not continually communicating, you cannot over communicate when it comes to alignment. It's people, when people don't have information coming to them on an ongoing basis, they're going to create their own narrative and they're going to form their own reality. We've talked about that. So now, in order to create alignment going forward, the discussion has to be ongoing, okay? If you do that, the way that you do that is you bring people to the table, you share ideas, you talk about the challenges that different people are facing, and you work through them together. Not everybody may end up getting exactly what they want in this process, but they're all going to feel engaged because they're part of the process. They're going to open up and start to trust each other. And when you start doing that, they're walking the road to alignment. These people are going to have skin in the game. They're going to know they're part of the process, and it's going to make all the difference in the world. Now, I'll tell you the impact that alignment can do. Some people think, I can't be aligned with those people. I don't like those people. They're not my favorite people. You don't have to like somebody to be aligned with someone. So we were doing an accelerated leadership program when I was at Fox, and it's a 9-month program. And one of the participants came up to me, and it was about 2 weeks before they do final presentations. The last 3 months of these 9-month programs, they're actually working together, building a presentation, and getting up in front of senior management to present the findings. We have about 2 weeks left. One of the participants comes up to me and she says, nobody in our group is talking to each other. Everybody's at each other's throat. It's too bad the program has to end this way. And I said, that's interesting because the last time I checked, the program wasn't over. And I said, I don't know about you, I said, but I'm not willing to get up there and present to senior management without knowing that this team has my back. I don't want to be at each other's throat. That's not okay with me. So I'm going to do whatever, I would do whatever it takes. I would get everybody in the room. I would make sure all the unspoken communication about how people feel about each other and their frustrations gets out in the open, and we clear the air. You don't have to like the people. You just have to respect the people, and you have to trust the people that they're going to do their jobs and work together. So this person said, I'm going to take that on. And she went back and she pulled the group together. And I understand it was rather cathartic because there was a lot of communication that had been left unsaid for a while. And finally, everybody got it off their chest. Now, did they end up friends? No. I don't think the people in that project team ended up being friends. But they committed to each other that they were going to support each other, get on message, get aligned, get up in front of senior management, and know that they had each other's support in having a great presentation. And I will tell you, going into the presentations that year, there were 4 different teams presenting. I was most concerned about this team, that they were going to really struggle. And I will tell you that I believe they put the best presentation on because they got all of their own personal stuff out of the way. They had a chance to air their differences. They had an opportunity to talk about the challenges that each of them were facing and when they were in each other's way, clear the air, and begin to trust each other so that they could walk into alignment. And so there's an example of how it worked within one of our programs. Let me give you an example of what doesn't work. We had an executive at Fox who at one point had a lot of independence, but the world was changing. We had an opportunity to bring a couple different divisions together, and this individual took over the 2 divisions, and he wanted to do things his way. Now, we would have weekly meetings with these divisions to talk about what the strategy was going forward, how we were going to move our product into the marketplace, how we were going to market, all these different things. And because this individual wanted to do it his way, he would get very frustrated by the chairman's input, trying to share ideas about how we might do things differently. And I could see it in his face. I could see that first when this whole process first started, he would just argue. He would say, I don't think we should do it that way. And he found that the arguing was, I don't know if it would zap his energy. He became frustrated with it. And finally, he got to a point where he said, and he never said this to me, but I could see it, that he was just going to sit through the meetings, hear what the chairman had to say, but then go and do it his way anyway. I could see that the arguing slowly turned into some head shaking of disagreement, and then ultimately what looked like, okay, whatever, I'll just listen. And then went out and did it his way. And we ended up with a strategy that wasn't working because we had a strategic idea about how to have our product work in every market, in every medium, theatrical, home entertainment, TV distribution, in order for us to optimize the distribution of our product. And this particular leader was not playing the game. And slowly the communication became less and less and less between the chairman and this individual, to the point where we had to make a change. So you can get by without alignment for a while, but in the long run, it's going to be incredibly detrimental to your organization. And it's ultimately going to probably disrupt the organization in such a way that changes will need to be made. So I encourage you, actively create alignment. It's an ongoing process. It begins with trust. At Hallett Leadership, we use tools that revolve around generating healthy communication, giving and receiving feedback, and clearing the air when we have obstacles and misunderstandings and separate agendas so that we can get everybody engaged, build trust, get everybody on the same page, and be able to move forward effectively. Thanks for your time today, and I look forward to next time.